Hey, it's Pink Buddha, and this is how the 808 sample pack started, running the Behringer RD8 through the ELEKTRON heat for some filter magic. And this is how things ended, running the loops through my reel-to-reel for added saturation. So in this video, we're going to go over two different things. I'm going to walk you through all the different samples, give you a chance to hear how they sound. And I also thought I would share with you three different ways that I use pre-recorded loops to make them my own and incorporate them in my music. Okay, so let's talk about what you get in this pack. Wait, I forgot to mention this pack is going to be free for the first 2 weeks. So after you watch this video, use the link in the description and the comments below to grab this pack. Okay, so where were we? That's right. So the main meat of this sample pack is 99 different loops. And here they all are laid out in Ableton. Now don't start freaking out if you're not an Ableton user. I just threw them all in here because it's easier to show you that way. If you get this pack, you're going to download a bunch of folders like this. Okay, so all these loops here are at 80 beats per minute. These loops here at 98 beats per minute. And all these ones over here at 110 beats per minute. And so again, what I did was run the RD8 through the ELEKTRON heat after doing some fancy routing with the Tascam Model 12. More about that on my other channel. And here's what one of those beats sound like. Then I recorded that loop into my reel-to-reel to capture some tape saturation. Then I got the idea to turn it to half speed because slowed down tape has a very special sound. You see what I mean? It's special. Now here's another loop, and on this one I actually went a little crazy using the LFO to control the ELEKTRON's filter. And now with the tape saturation. And here comes that slowed down tape. Oh my gosh, I love how that sounds. All right, so here's another beat for you. And this one I really cranked on the envelope filter. Now the tape saturation. And the slowed down tape. Oh, so you might have noticed that in these loops, I don't really have any kick going on, and that's for a very specific reason. And I'll cover that a little bit more later when I talk about those three different strategies for how I use pre-recorded loops like this. And then maybe that'll help you understand as to why I'm doing it this way. Okay, so in addition to these 99 loops, there's also 42 different drum kit samples. Now again, don't get distracted by the fact I'm using a machine. All these samples are going to come in folders. I just loaded them in here so it'd be easier to play them for you. So there's basically three different kits. The first one is just running through the ELEKTRON heat and some of my outboard gear. For the second kit, all the samples were run through the reel-to-reel for tape saturation. And then I also slowed these samples down by tape. Again, I love that slowed down tape. Okay, so the last part of the sample pack are 42 raw stems. So on my other channel, I made a whole video about how I used Tascam Model 12 to set up some really fancy routing for this recording. And that allowed me to capture the raw stems without any outboard processing or filtering, but then also capture the output of my outboard effects. And so I'm just throwing those in this pack as well. Okay, so now that you've heard some of the sounds from this pack, I want to share with you 3 different strategies for how I use loops like this in my music. The first strategy that I like to use is to cut up different parts of loops and then rearrange them. For example, here's one of the loops from this pack. And let's just take this little tom fill right here. And maybe I don't want that happening at the end of every measure. So maybe I'll just cut it out and move something else in its place. Like maybe this part with just hi-hats. Or maybe I really like this snare. That's got a great little filter pop to it. So let's have that come in a couple more times. Now you could also cut up parts from another loop and add that as well. Let's grab another one from this pack, a loop that's been slowed down through my reel-to-reel. And maybe I'll just grab this cymbal hit and then throw it up here. And while we're at it, why don't we grab a few more parts to throw up in here? I could take that even further by reversing some of these cuts. Like maybe another one of these cymbals from this other loop. And then maybe reversing that filtered snare pop that we liked before. And then after you make all these cuts, you can bounce it or consolidate it into a new loop all of its own, and then throw that in your loop bank for future use. Okay, so another thing that you can do with pre-recorded loops is to chop up certain parts and throw those in some sort of drum kit or drum rack. And let's start with bringing in some individual drum hits, ones that are included in this pack. And then I'm going to add a cut from this loop. How about one of these hi-hat parts as well? And last but not least, how about that snare with the filter pop? A third way that I like to use pre-recorded loops is to layer with my main beat. And this is the main way that I like to use loops in my music. And it's the reason that these loops from my sample pack don't have very many kicks in them, because that makes it harder to layer with another beat. So let me show you what I mean by this, and let's consider this to be my main beat. Then let's grab another loop from this pack, maybe one like this. But to keep it from muddying up the mix, I like to add an EQ and then carve out the low end. Here's how they sound together. And then sometimes I like to take that even further by throwing on a compressor and sidechaining it to the kick on the main beat. And here's how it sounds together. And I could also maybe take this further by adding some panning on this extra loop. You know, not too much, but just a little something to create some movement. So here's how it sounds all together. Okay, so now let's take all this away. And then bring it back one more time. And if you want to pick up this pack, use the link in the comments and the description below. Note the discount code. This is going to be free for the first 2 weeks and then the price goes up, so grab it quick.